He's made of many parts, but every part is evil. Here's your look at the Mattel Master Universe Origins, the Evil Horde's Modulok, evil beast of 1,000 bodies. This Motu Origins Modulok Deluxe action figure is designed at 5.5-inch scale with modern posability. The Motu Toy Monster Pack comes with 34 modular body parts to be assembled in thousands of ways. There are even enough pieces to create 2 complete creatures. A tool is included to assist in removing ball joints from sockets. 2 accessories can be used as individual blasters or 1 combined weapon. I think before we look at the creature with the swappable features, let's take the tape measure, shall we, and see how tall the brand new Master Universe Origins Modulok stands. Now, I stripped this guy down to the basic looking body. Of course, he's going to get a lot more elaborate in a moment. Based that, at least in mind, Modulok is going to stand with 2 heads at 6.5 inches in height, or about 17 centimeters tall. Another henchman of the Horde. Here's what the figure looks like with Hordak. Bringing in also as well Leech, who's about the same size if you use the 2 heads on Modulok. He's, though, still going to be a little bit taller than Grizzlor. Here's also what he looks like with Mantenna. Off to the side, here's what he looks like, at least with one of the Horde troopers. And for my personal collection, at least, I know he doesn't really belong here in most collections, but I like to tend to put Anti-Eternia He-Man as part of the Horde as well. As you can see, we've got quite the mess going on here for Modulok. And to help explain things a little bit better, the folks over at Mattel includes a paper pamphlet. Normally I'd be one to throw this right away in the recycling, but I would say stop. Don't do that yet. Look at this thoroughly, though, because the ball joints that are listed here in black and outlined, it looks like Muppet eyes. All the Muppet eyes are pegs that you can't remove. So the ones for the V-neck, for example, the torso, the lower waist, and even like these additional neck pieces even tell you here on the side, the joints indicated with dotted circles are non-detachable. Non-detachable. Do not attempt at any cost to pry these, I'm adding extra words by the way, to pry these joints away from the toy parts or use excessive force when removing the toy parts connected to them. Hold on to this. I'm just going to put this actually off to the side. So with Modulok, as mentioned already, I sort of kind of stripped him down to the bare basics. These parts theoretically can also be used with, as well with other Master Universe Origins figures. Let's kind of go through all of these parts individually. So first, the figure does come included with a pair of blasters. The blasters are different from one another. The thing that's neat about them, though, is that they can hold in his hands. Now, these aren't really the arms that he came out of the packaging with. The packaged hands were actually these ones here. These will have no chance at all of being able to properly hold the blasters. So that's one of the reasons why I started a little bit more basic than these. Popped these off. And with the hands that he has now, he actually can hold these in his hands. So let's go ahead and just put them in between his grip. I should say in between his grip. Put them in his grip. Oh, I just dropped one of the blasters. Blasted. Let's try that again. Put the blaster in one of his hands while we have the other hand in our hands. Let's go ahead. Put the other blaster in there. There we go. It's awfully long handles. I'm so used to having shorter handles for these accessories, but you can very easily have them holding the guns that way. You can also do 2 other things with the blasters. Just put them down here for a second. Modulok does have one issue going for him as well. Talk about that in a moment. You'll see here there's also a peg. You'll see here that there's also a hole. If you take the 2 shapes and you connect them together, you can actually get yourself a dual blaster instead of just the one. But wait, there's more. I'm sure I'm not going to be saying that quite a lot in this review, but let's hope. Anyways, see also there's these holes on the back. There's also these 2 pegs. Again, you take the 2 shapes and fit them together, and now you got yourself a blaster that shoots front and back. Pew! Pew! And of course, you can also take that as well. You could really, too, put the blaster in his hand this way. So if instead of having it upright, if you want to have a slightly shorter peg, it just seems, though, that he has a harder time to really hold the blaster. Am I struggling? Why am I having such a tough time doing this? Just take the blaster hand there. There we go. And you can put it in his hand that way, too. I mean, I know, obviously, there's going to have these longer pegs on the side. If you just overlook that part, just block it with your hand, you can also hold the blaster that way, too. Modulok also has one neat thing going for him as well. Above and beyond all the parts that we're about to have a look at, the figure also comes included with a shield. But wait, there's more. It's not just a shield alone. Although I will say, though, the shield is very nicely painted here. I guess molded here in red plastic. You can see there's several Horde symbols here, so Hordak knows right away who this belongs to. He can hold the shield this way. But on the inside, too, there's just as many Horde symbols there, too. Now, you can also take that, You already know the way that shields work by now. The shield just fits into his hand. But again, like, I don't know why. These are regular used hands, and yet I have such a hard time getting him to properly hold the accessories. Anyways, that's what it looks like in his hand. But it also serves as well to be a tool. So with the figure coming included with all these ball joints, if you start to put things onto Modulok and then you're realizing if you ever build Lego, not maybe for a living, although if you were to build Lego for a living, I mean, just think of how fun that would be. Sometimes when you put Lego, of course, together, it's always hard to kind of pry things apart. So Lego includes, of course, that removing tool. Well, Mattel sort of did something similar too. This works to remove the ball joints. So, like, for example, you get several of these. One's work with arms, one's work with legs. We'll kind of look at the lay of the land in a second. But to help assist this, you actually get yourself a lifting tool. This just basically puts in between the posts, and you can pry the ball joint that way. You have the larger one, and there's also a smaller one there too. Kind of think of it like a shield can opener. Very cool, though. Let's put that off to the side. Okay, so the figure, if I can break things down here, he comes with 2 back torso pieces. Theoretically, you can also use them as tail pieces. These will go on the back of his body. But any one of these can basically be swapped around with the parts that he has right now. To help assist this is the most crucial thing. The figure comes included with 2 types of ball joints. So when you are kind of adding pieces onto Modulok, you have to decide for yourself first, is this going to be an arm or is this going to be a torso? If that answer is yes to either one of those, then you're going to use this ball joint. This ball joint will go basically into anything that has a hole like this. Stop that. And then this will be then a torso piece, or it's going to be a part that's going to go into the shoulder. Because if you look at the torso, just detach this right now, you can see that it actually has the exact same type of peg. If you remove his arms, you can see it uses the same type of ball peg right there. So again, ask yourself right in advance when you start to move things around on Modulok, does it want to be an arm? Does it want to be a torso? Or does it want to be a leg? If it wants to be a leg or it wants to be a neck, then you're going to be using this type of ball joint, which is this one here. So basically what it is it's a ball joint. It's a ball joint. It's a dumbbell ball joint. You can see the differences between the two. With that in mind, though, let's put Modulok back together here. There is one thing, though, I did want to talk about before we start swapping around the parts. I noticed his leg causes him to fall frequently. And when you're looking at his knee, though, normal Master Universe Origins figures, you can usually get their legs straight. Modulok, I notice, always will have a bent knee. And I've tried to bend this to the point where obviously I don't want to break this. But when I try to make it straight, the knee always wants to bend back, which is fine. The other thing I've noticed, though, is with the leg configuration that he has right now, without the assist of other things behind him, he has a harder time to stand. And I don't know if it has something to do with maybe his feet or just his knees or a combination of the both. But I do have a little more of a harder time for him to balance. That being said, though, the figure comes included with 3 types of legs. He comes with, obviously, the legs that he has right now, which I guess would be kind of the most simplest looking leg, which is like what looks to be like a green kneecap, a little bit of green down below. He's got also as well these monster legs with tiny, tiny little feet. And he also comes included with another pair of feet that are probably my favorite. He has these monster feet that have the little fins on the back. So you can choose for yourself. Now, again, not even adding extra things onto him. If you just swap out the things that he has right now, you can easily take the leg off, for example. Just detach it from the ball joint and then replace it with, obviously, even if we're going to be swapping things around, we want to make sure that the ball joint's facing the right way. Plug that onto the ball joint. And now you got yourself 2 different types of legs. It's super simple. The one thing, though, it does unfortunately sacrifice with, especially like the legs, as you can see, like there's much more of a visible post between where the bottom of his torso is, or his crotch, and then where the thigh will be. There's a little bit more of a space there. So you can customize the legs just on that alone. It may cause a little bit more balancing issues for Modulok, not that he already didn't have balancing issues. But you know what? Let's actually just put the legs back in place. I want to kind of show you everything first, and then we'll start swapping parts around. We'll just pop the leg back in place. There we go. So he does then also have 3 pairs of interchangeable arms. It's funny, though, that online they advertise that you could take the character and essentially make 2 separate figures with the amount of parts that you get. It's not really 100% true. I mean, to be fair, yes, if you took pieces like this, for example, I'm sure you could probably fudge yourself a smaller sized Modulok. But because the one thing that he's missing is a secondary torso piece, realistically, no, you can't create 2 identically sized Moduloks. You could create like a Modulok that looks a little bit more human to form, and then you'd make basically like a little abomination thing that probably could go scamper along with him. The figure also comes included with a couple of swappable arms. So like we've already looked at the fact that, where's the other arm? There's the other arm. So it comes with like the more simpler looking arm that for all intents and purposes, yeah. I mean, any one of these arms, by the way, like let's just bring in Hordak back here for a second. You want to take off Hordak's arms, you want to swap it out with the monster arm that comes included with Modulok, you can do that. I mean, all the parts are universally jointed. So he comes with those, and he basically, again, comes with the monster arms. If you want to use the blaster, you got to use these arms, or again, you could just take the hands off and then just replace it with these hands. So that's one way around it as well. The last thing the figure comes included with, if I can get everything kind of balanced here, comes with some additional neck pieces. Now again, you see this as a neck. This could also be a shoulder piece. This could also be an additional waist piece, a waist extension piece. It's just, again, it's a matter of wanting to use this peg or if you want to use this peg. The figure also comes included with a tail piece, and he also comes included with like another variation of a tail. And he also has this extension piece too. With the proper joints, obviously, you can add this tail piece on the end, or you can add this piece on the end. I know there's a fair bit to cover. And I guess really that's the last thing that he has, other than, again, a few extra like branched pieces off. So again, like you could use these for the necks. You could use these also for the shoulders. I'm likely going to be using these for the shoulders so I can show you guys what he looks like with 4 arms instead of just the 2. There he goes, falling over again. The last thing, the figure also comes included with some additional neck pieces, but again, they don't have to be necks. They could be shoulders. They could be legs. Just, again, a matter of the joints. Okay, so let's kind of go through everything here on Modulok. So with the figure the way that he is right now, standard articulation, by the way, in all this figure. Now, again, if you don't want to have him with the 2 heads, it's just obviously a case of popping off one of the heads, pop this in place instead, and then for all intents and purposes, you got yourself a regular Motu body. Other than just the obvious, very glaring peg that he has on the back of his body, there's no way to remove this. Standard articulation, though, on this version of Modulok, so again, the arms, you're going to have the hinge, the elbow bend, the swivel in the arm, the swivel in the hand, swivel in the waist. Legs ball joint, a little more of an uglier looking ball joint just because of the way that the legs are designed. Forward and back motion on the legs, a swivel there at the top, swivel in the leg, bend at the knee, and also again you got your ankle rocker with a boot swivel cut there too. Standard version of Modulok before we actually start fiddling around with this guy. Okay, so if we want to kind of get things fun going here, so what we're going to do is we're going to just pop the head off here. We're going to go back to the idea that he has obviously 2 heads instead of just the 1. Then we're going to go back and pop the head in place. Now, again, if you wanted to, you could take the neck extension piece, which, again, I'm only using it now as a neck extension. It doesn't have to be a neck extension. But say, for example, you want to have this head a little bit higher than the other. You want to do that? Okay, we'll do that. So let's just pop this off. We're going to take the neck piece here, which, again, like with these ones, you can't remove the pegs. They're permanently in place. I know. There's a bit to cover. So we're going to plug that in. We're going to plug in this head sculpt. So at least the head's going to be a little bit higher than the other one. Pop this back in place. There we go. And what else do we want to do? Let's add the back piece here. So what we'll do is, because that ball joint's already there, we can't do anything about that. We're going to take the ball joint, and it doesn't really matter which way you've got it because the holes are exactly the same on both sides. We're going to plug it on the back like that. And let's see, where's that other piece? So we're going to grab this piece for the tail because, again, we want to have want to have the additional legs on the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a ball joint. And this is, again, not the one that we want to use. We want to use the one that has the 2 ball joints. So when you're putting these in, this one won't have it right away, but you'll be happy to know at least that it roots pretty deep into the socket. So you basically put a little bit of pressure onto this. You kind of want to wiggle the post all the way to the back. There we go. And again, if you have any tough time doing this, simply just go and use the tool, and the tool will help kind of pull the part out. Because I want to keep it in, I'm not going to use the tool. And then what we'll do is we'll just take the tail piece and plug it onto the back of his body. Just like that. Now that we've got that, let's go ahead and start worrying about the legs. So again, like if you want to use these legs for the front, I know we've kind of covered off that territory. The thing that's neat about Modulok too is that this is the first time we've had ourselves removable legs. If you ever follow that paper pamphlet we always throw away, I mean, it's probably good now that we were researching that earlier. The pamphlet tells us that you always have to detach the waist piece. So like the waist, for example, when you're obviously swapping around parts for Master Universe Origins figures, the waist and the legs are always going to be one piece. You can't detach the 2. In this case, though, because the legs are separate, you could use these technically as a customizer's, like if you want to customize your figures down the road. So let's pop the ball joints back in place. Which way did we have it? We had it this way. Plug that all the way on there. I will say, though, the only one issue I kind of had getting everything together on Modulok was when you have like a hole, for example, a socket, and you have to take the first time the ball joint and have to really force that in there to get everything in place. So now he's got, instead of just, well, he doesn't have any extra legs right now. He's only got the 2 on the front. Let's fix that quickly. We'll take the monster legs. I want to make sure we've got them facing, not that it really matters which way we've got them facing. This guy's just an abomination of many parts, but let's just plug the leg in place. So that's one. Do the same then on the other side. We're going to plug that in place. Now again, this is the customized, this is the way I'm customizing Modulok. When you get your Modulok for yourself, you can customize him in a different way. Let's take the kind of the fish legs here, and we're going to attach them onto the back. Again, we'll just plug them onto the back of the ball joints. There we go. There's one. Do I have it all the way? I don't think I have it all the way. The thing about the legs too, oh, there we go. That was harder than I was expecting. The thing also about the legs, where's the other leg, is you can see that they've made a slot on either side. That's just so that the leg, when you are putting them onto the ball joint, has a little bit of wiggle space for them to move back and forth. So we'll take then the last leg, plug it in place. Whew, those legs seem to always be the hardest thing to attach onto them. And now you've got Modulok with 6 legs. 6 legs instead of just the 2. A little bit of balancing and readjusting of the legs may be required on your part. Let's just bring those legs around here a little bit. And we'll also make sure I've got this on all the way. Again, the legs seem only really to be the hardest thing to get onto Modulok. It may require a little bit of pressure on your part just to get them all the way on there. And yeah, again, there's the back piece popping off here. Just get everything in place. There we go. And we'll get the other leg on there. I think we're set. I think we're ready to go. Now we've got the back section of him. He looks like some monstrous looking centaur. Is a centaur a horseman? Part horse, part man? Now that we've got everything here going on for Modulok, I'll have to kind of just fix things in the back there for his body. Let's deal a little bit now with his arms. So what we're going to do is we're going to detach the arm here, pop those off, and we're going to revisit the idea of using these. So what you'll do is, because again we're using a shoulder piece, which peg do we use? The ball joint, or do we use this joint? Those that answered this question, you are correct. So let's go ahead and just plug those in place. And if you have used moisturizer, like this guy's used moisturizer in preparation for this review, probably wasn't a good idea. So that's one. Let's find the other peg piece here. We'll plug that in place. It's awfully warm here as well, so I'm dealing with the heat as well as moisturizer on my hands. Just a lethal combination, especially if you're trying to get these little ball joints in place. Do we have it? I think we have it. Okay, all right. So now what we'll do is we'll attach this onto his shoulders, and we'll attach the other piece back here as well. Line everything up. This whole time I'm looking at this, I keep thinking, please don't let the legs fall off. Please don't let the legs fall off. And now let's go ahead and take the arms. Now, do we want to use the monster arms for the tops, or do we want to use them for the bottoms? All right, we'll use them for the tops. The more showpiece arms are going to be on the top. So we'll just attach those into the sockets. Now, you may also find this a little bit easier to do all this with attaching the arms first and then going ahead and attaching the shoulder piece in. Again, we're going to do this on this side too. There we go. And then really the last thing that we really then need to do is just attach the other arms. Now, I want to make sure I've also got them all the way on there. We'll take the other arm, plug them in place. And this is the way I'm going to customize Modulok. Likely going to be also the way I'm going to display this guy on the shelf. It just means, though, that he's got a lot of extra arms. Hold on one second. Just wanted to make sure that I had all the limbs properly attached in place. I do have a couple of issues, though, when it comes to moving like the legs. Periodically, just the way that they snap onto the ball joints, they do pop off, but as you can see, they're very easy to put back in place. With the way that I've got designed Modulok here, the only thing that's left behind for pieces is one tail, a few extra extension pieces, which again, I could probably have added onto the neck. I could have also attached these to the shoulders and made the arms stick out further. And then I've got a couple of the ball joints just left behind as well, which will go into a bag. Again, he still retains all the same levels of posability. I mean, just again, you're adding extra parts, but the joints work the exact same way. The only one thing I will also say about Modulok, other than having the legs falling off a little too frequently, some of the pegs that were told in the instructions not to remove, obviously I'm not going to remove them right now, but I want to detach at least one of these, because one issue I kind of have with this is that there is a little bit of wiggle back and forth. You can probably see this as well. That wiggling does concern me. I mean, obviously they had to put that there just so that there would be some tolerances to when it comes to moving the legs around. But I wonder, though, like detaching these and reattaching them, if the way that that wiggles now, is that going to cause problems with the plastic down the road? Short of that, though, I really, again, like the look of Modulok. I never had the original Modulok as a kid, but I knew for myself, like the moment that Master Universe Origins ever released a Modulok, I would definitely like to get one right away. And of course, now having a Modulok, he goes perfectly with the rest of the Horde. There's Hordak. Again, we'll kind of just bring in a couple. Maybe I won't bring in all of them, but Grizzlor. There's, again, the Horde Trooper. And where is Mantena? I don't know what Leech is doing right now. He's probably sucking face somewhere. But anyways, that's basically what Modulok's going to look like on the shelf along with my Horde. Again, I like the idea that he has as much customization as possible. You know, in the end, I was kind of looking at everything that came included with the Origins Modulok, and I thought, like, it's a lot to kind of look at. How am I going to properly be able to explain this in the review? And really, again, in the end, you kind of have to just kind of look at the ball joints and assess for yourself, again, what are you going to be using for a leg, for a neck, or if you want to be using them for a torso and an arm. Once you kind of get the basics down for those, at least, Modulok's a pretty fun figure to detach, put everything back together. On his own, though, I will say, like, he doesn't seem to stand all that well, especially with the legs that I was kind of starting the review with. The knee tolerances, speaking of tolerances, like the knee didn't seem like they wanted to be straight. It's the one of those figures that he really does seem to have some stress issues when it comes to his knees. Like, I wanted to bend them straight, sort of then to match sort of the same stance as the rest of the Horde. I can't quite do that with these legs here. Other than that, though, I really like the way that Modulok turned out here. Are we missing anybody? Are we all here? Out of the 34 parts that come included with the evil Modulok, what's left behind, at least from my creation, is 4 body parts and 6 ball joints. Advertised on the front of the packaging, there were several different configurations for Modulok to cheat the way of getting a second figure out of all the parts. Clearly, they don't use a torso piece. So what you end up getting, if you end up using the torso for Modulok here, is a monstrosity that looks like he would have come from John Carpenter's The Thing. It is doable, but for me at least, I'd rather like to have just all the body parts attached to one figure, not try to assemble what's left behind to Frankenstein another. Modulok, though, assembles pretty much the same way as every other Master Universe Origins figure. The only thing, again, with this guy is that you got additional ball joints, and now you have removable legs, which wasn't the case before. In the end, though, he's a cool-looking Modulok, and a nice little clever touch of including a shield that also serves as well to be a secondary removing tool. Have you guys had the chance to pick up Modulok? Let me know down below in the comments section. And also as well, if you guys did enjoy this video, you can do it a solid by throwing a like. But you guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. Hit that subscribe, yes. Turn on the bell, sure. Come back. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.